When you think of central Illinois in the American heartland, you probably conjure up images of abundant, fertile farms, windswept plains, hardy Midwestern patriots, and perhaps even the University of Illinois Fighting Illini. But unfortunately, you should also picture this.
一个大长传线，可以拿到，下来可以上我的手，直接打正，一次超前之后直接打正，一次进攻，直接打正。
That's Illini football, broadcast in Mandarin Chinese in the middle of America. Why? Because 6,000 Chinese nationals are enrolled at the University of Illinois. That's the second highest number in the country. And they're just one block of 300,000 Chinese nationals studying across America. Now, at first we were told this would be a good thing. Cultural enrichment, global exposure, etc. And maybe it started that way. Back in 2000, the U of I had just 37 Chinese students. But now, our schools are overrun. And here's the truth. Foreign students are displacing American kids, plain and simple. Talented American high schoolers, I mean kids getting near perfect ACTs and SATs with 4.0 grade point averages in advanced placement classes. Those American academic stars, they're being denied spots at the public universities that their families have supported for generations. Why? Because these schools chase full tuition from wealthy international students, often recruited by professional firms. Many of these student applications, they are fraudulent, especially the Chinese ones, many of whom submit fake test scores and fabricated credentials. That's not speculation, that's a fact. Marcia McClary was born and raised in Illinois. Both her parents graduated from U of I. Now, as a mother of 5, she's watched the university push aside the state's own students in favor of students from China.
It's just disheartening because a lot of our students cannot get in to U of I, and it is the premier institution in the state. And then they have to go out of state and pay higher tuition there. I don't think we should be prioritizing that. And tax-wise, we're paying a lot of taxes into the university system in the state, and we should be able to take advantage of that as a priority for our students.
Can you give us some examples of young people you know who have outstanding credentials who did not get in to the University of Illinois?
There's a student at a top 20 high school in the area who had a 4.3 unweighted GPA and a 35 ACT, who applied for computer science and did not get in to U of I's program, went to Purdue, but the family has to pay, roughly $20,000-ish more per year just to do that.
Okay, let me drill down a little more on this though. So a 35 ACT, for people who may not have young people in their lives, a 35 ACT is outstanding, right? And a 4.3 is better than an A average, unweighted, at a top high school.
Correct.
You almost can't do better, right? I mean, what more was this young person supposed to do to get into University of Illinois?
That's a great question. I wish I knew the answer to that question. And, if we want our state to thrive and we want to continue business or, the STEM fields, we should be having students go to school here and stay here. That should be a priority for the state.
Mark Andreessen, who built billion-dollar companies from a modest start in rural Wisconsin, he got his shot at the U of I. So did Larry Ellison, who went to Illinois and then went on to become the richest man in the world. Would they even get admitted today? Andreessen doesn't think so.
The intersection of DEI and immigration that has really, I think, warped, our perceptions on high-skilled immigration over the last 50 years. You look at like the foreign enrollment rates of the top universities, which went from, like 2 or 3 or 4% 50 years ago to whatever, 27 or 30 or 50.
And Columbia's over half, right?
70% or whatever it is. And so there's been this massive transformation in who gets educated. And then there's been this massive transformation of who gets admitted through through affirmative action, and then, as we now know it, DEI. And again, this goes straight to the political divide in the country, which is if you're parents of a kid where I grew up, and you've got a smart kid, and you think you're going to get them into, a top university in this country, like, you are fooling yourself. There is this really fundamental question, which is like, what level of untapped talent exists in this country that a combination of DEI and immigration have basically cut out of the loop for the last 50 years? And how long can we have this, story to everybody in the Midwest and the South that says, sorry, your kids are SOL?
So, these foreigners, they're not just taking classes, they're taking your kids' seats and eventually taking their jobs too. Now, your child worked hard, played by the rules, crushed the tests, but gets turned away? While an unvetted foreign national with a fake transcript takes their place? This isn't education, it's displacement by design.
I've had numerous students who've contacted me through email wanting to know if my program was a STEM designated program for the purposes of immigration, and that's what they led with, not, hello, I'm interested in your program and stuff like that.
Right.
These are my interests, I'd like to talk to you about it.
It's not, I love math, it's, will this get me to the visa I want because I want to be in the United States?
Yeah.
Dr. Stephen Kleinschmidt is a professor at Northwestern University. He has seen foreign students whose credentials are not only in question, they couldn't even understand English. But somehow, these students are here in American universities instead of Americans.
Like you read their letters of application, they have no idea what they're applying to. They have no, and this has been at multiple institutions. I don't want to cast aspersion on any one thing, but at multiple institutions, just people applying for everything, sometimes not even changing the name of the university on the cover letter or how they reference it. And I've had colleagues at some universities, even in doctoral programs, where the person shows up their first day and they say, hey, it's nice to meet you, welcome. And like they're not even able to say hello. So I believe there are some segments of the academic credential market where institutionalized corruption and being able to bribe test proctors, or maybe even the government themselves being the ones that force changes on their transcripts and stuff like that.
Professor Kleinschmidt is risking his own career by speaking out, but he believes American universities are in crisis.
I've had classes where I have 2 or 3 times as many Chinese students than I have had domestic students. Columbia University, 39% of their students are international. In 1965, it was 5%. Right. NYU, 44% of students are international. These are very selective universities that usually only admit 6 or 7% of the people who apply, and I'm sure there's probably, 100,000, perhaps more students that applied for admission to these universities, but we're systematically prioritizing international students. They get around the immigration caps that are set by the executive office. So if the president sets, say, immigration cap of 85,000 people per year, there's, I believe, 250 to 300,000 people per year who end up getting the OPT extension. Universities are essentially able to issue almost an unlimited number of student visas, and when the student finishes their program, there's something called the optional practical training program, which if you're in just social sciences, humanities, a lot of other disciplines, you can stay in the United States 1 year after you graduate from your program. But if you are in a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, you are able to, that extends to 3 years.
So let me ask you something maybe you consider provocative, but see if you think it's fair. It seems to me then that we have hundreds of thousands of foreign students taking spots, and even if they're full pay out-of-state applicants to these places and students there, they are still being subsidized by U.S. taxpayers, significantly subsidized, including the private schools. So they are being subsidized by U.S. taxpayers to go to American schools. They are in many cases taking highly coveted spots that American students would like to be taking. And then once they graduate, they're doing jobs that plenty of Americans can do, but because they're foreigners and because many of them will work cheaper because of their visas,
They're effectively replacing American workers. This seems like a super raw deal for patriots in the United States.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that sentiment. You know, that state universities, these particularly land-grant universities I've attended to, that they're there to promote the economic prosperity and improve the lives of U.S. citizens and the citizens of the state of Illinois. Those people are not the ones being admitted. You know, these international students who end up coming here and end up taking these entry-level jobs, and we're systematically undermining our own technological advantages and prowess, which has a lot of important considerations across a lot of domains, particularly national security.
Now, you might worry that there's something racist or xenophobic about turning away foreign students, so allow me to address this point. Our interest, really our only interest, is fully about protecting the prerogatives and opportunities of Americans, whatever their color or their ethnicity. In fact, a lot of this wave of Chinese nationals, it literally means far fewer spots for American young adults, many of whom are themselves ethnically from China or elsewhere in Asia. Here's one such American kid, Stanley Zhang, as reported by local news in San Francisco. He was talented enough to get hired as an engineer at Google. He had near perfect SATs, 1590 out of 1600, and a 3.97 GPA at a super prestigious Palo Alto high school. But he was rejected. Rejected by 16 American colleges, including UCLA, Cal Berkeley, and yes, the University of Illinois. Does that sound fair? And of course, this isn't just about fairness, it's also about national security. This isn't organic immigration. It's organized infiltration, backed by a hostile regime, masked as education, and welcomed by a willfully blind elite. These aren't just ambitious students. They're a strategic export, selected, funded, deployed with purpose. In 2025, 3 Chinese nationals at the University of Michigan were caught smuggling agricultural bioweapons into the United States. Their plan? Attack America's farms and poison our very food. In their indictment, our Department of Justice observed, these are the latest charges in a long stream of cases stemming from University of Michigan international research activities, attempting to smuggle biological materials under the guise of research. In Chicago, Ji Jiaquan, a Chinese engineering student at Illinois Tech, was convicted of espionage. He was recruited by China's Ministry of State Security to infiltrate defense contractors in America. His oath? Devote the rest of my life to state security. This young spy, he was so valuable to Beijing that he's back there now, part of a prisoner swap agreed to by the US and China. And he wasn't alone. These students, they are monitored by the CCP constantly. Think about that. We hand over elite research, competitive academic seats, and cultural access to people working for a hostile regime. Are we insane? No, but our ruling class might be. They're not loyal to Danville, Illinois. They're loyal to Davos, Switzerland. They don't see students, they see customers, foreign ones. These elites encourage mass foreign student migration, and not just for money, but also because it's a backdoor to permanent residency. Every one of these students, every one of them, gets at least a year of legal US work, and many get 3. Then come the H-1B visas, then come the green cards, then citizenship. Steve Bannon, thank you so much for joining us. Now, before you got fancy graduate degrees, Steve, from places like Georgetown and Harvard, you went to a land-grant college, a superb one, Virginia Tech. Those land-grant schools, that was once a really clear path for middle-class kids across America to reach upward mobility. Is that path, the one you took, is that getting squeezed now, and at least in part, because of foreign students?
Steve, it's interesting, the land grant universities were passed during Abraham Lincoln's administration during the Civil War, along with the Homestead Act and many other populist policies that President Lincoln had at the time for to make sure we took care of American workers and the families and children of them to really build a professional, infrastructure of the company, whether it was agriculture, engineering, etc. No, I think it's very tough. VPI, my school, I think the entire graduate school in engineering and computer science is all Asian. It's all Chinese or South Asian. Almost 100%, I think it is, and many of the faculty. So, no, I think that's one of the problems, that there's not a pathway, as there should be, for American citizens to get into these high-paying jobs, because African Americans, Hispanics, they're just not in these graduate schools. They're not in these engineering schools. And it's not about the IQ at all. So this is outrageous. It starts in the universities, and what they're doing to pay for the tenured progressive left faculty is they're doing the arbitrage between the state tuition they would charge to African Americans, whites, Hispanic American citizens, or citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia, versus the $40,000 to $45,000, $50,000 they're going to take from a foreign government who's essentially underwriting the tuition of their students.
So, Steve, more broadly, what should be the mission of an American university?
Mission should be very simple. Is for the betterment of the country, and for betterment of the country through the education of the next generation. Obviously, research and things you're putting out to drive the progress of the nation economically, culturally, socially, business-wise, and to do that through American students. I think the mandate is very much what the mandate was when these colleges and universities started, to focus on the locality, to focus on their state, their region, take the kids from around those regions, train them up, educate them, get them up the learning curve, and then send them back out as happy alumni into these alumni networks, let them go back into the community and build the community.
Now, Steve, you have been as prescient as anybody in America about warning us about the risks of the Chinese Communist Party and the fact that we are already effectively at war with China. It's just not kinetic, thankfully, yet. But given that state of de facto war, is it just insane for us to effectively educate our enemies?
That is part of the ecosystem. We're providing an ecosystem for the Chinese Communist Party actually to stay competitive with us. We're providing them access to American equity markets, mass access to American debt markets, to basically pension funds. Workers' money in the United States whose jobs are being shipped overseas are essentially paying for that as we're financing that. Also, the training. They're in our national labs. They're in companies here in the United States. But particularly, we have 350,000 or more, because I'm not even sure we know the exact number, that we're taking into our best universities and training them in competition to our own people, and to go back and essentially work for companies that are state-owned or controlled by the state. It's very dangerous.
Meanwhile, our own kids, are living in their parents' basements, working service jobs, buried in debt. It's like the Chicago Bears surrendering home field advantage at Soldier Field to Packers fans just because they'd pay more. There goes the crowd. There goes the edge. There goes home field advantage, sold off, seat by seat. After all, for generations, U.S. colleges were an integral part of the success of the American story.
I love my Illini years. I mean, I am like crazy jealous of those years. I wouldn't let them go. Just everything about the University of Illinois was just a good experience for me. So yeah. I am super blessed that I was able to do that.
Tony Robinson grew up on the poor South Side of Chicago. Raised by a loving and hardworking single mom, he was accepted into the University of Illinois, which would forever change his life.
I was a biology pre-med major. I didn't know I had an aptitude for chemistry until I went to the University of Illinois. So when I was a freshman, the first chemistry course that I took, I got an A out of it. Mm-hmm. And then the next one I got an A. And so it was kind of a newfound kind of love there. And so I decided to be a chemistry major. Mm-hmm. So I majored in chemistry, and then I went to graduate school at Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas, and got my master's degree in electroanalytical chemistry. And then I went out and started working in the world.
The university helped Tony Robinson find a passion for chemistry and launched his career It's also where he met his future wife, the foundation for starting his family.
And I remember our first kiss was in a cornfield in Illinois. Yeah, it was in a cornfield. She was staying with a friend, and there was a cornfield nearby, and we used to go for walks, quite a bit. And so that first kiss in the cornfield.
That seems like a very Illini appropriate story.
Yeah,
Your
it
first
is,
kiss
it
was
is,
a
'cause there's
cornfield.
cornfields
Exactly. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And now all these decades later, still happily married, family.
38 years.
Fantastic.
38 years, 3 boys and a girl.
For every Chinese student at the University of Illinois, that's one less opportunity for deserving Americans. It means fewer Americans will rise in economic class, and perhaps fewer will meet spouses and start families, once a key foundation of American life.
All right, so here you are after a successful career as an industrial chemist, applying this science to real life as a chemistry teacher, super proud alum of the University of Illinois, fan of the Illini.
Yes.
What's your reaction to 6,000 spots at the University of Illinois going to Chinese nationals studying in the middle of central Illinois?
Yeah, that's a big number. There's a concern about other students that may not be able to get into the University of Illinois because of something like that. University. So all of our universities obviously should be primarily focused on educating Americans. It's pretty obvious that if we have so many or too many foreign students coming into the school, that those are going to be taking up spots that American students could have had. And the other thing is just the whole idea that our tax money, goes to many of these universities, and so that tax money it should be primarily for American students. Obviously, there's a time and place for foreign students to be in American schools. But then, that just has to be balanced. And it's just like you said, there could be a situation where a minority student such as myself wouldn't be able to get in because of that spot being taken by someone else.
Now, you're an educator, so I want your view on this, your expertise. What should be the mission of an American university? What should be the mission of the University of Illinois?
To prepare the citizens of the United States for their future. For making get them prepared and educated so that they can make a positive contribution to society. And again, it all goes back to the tax money, right? So we pay taxes so we fund it. All right, we fund it.
Yeah.
And
fund the private ones too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so because of the fact that we fund that with our own tax money, that should be the primary responsibility. But yeah, definitely to prepare students to make a positive impact, to contribute to society in positive ways. So many universities, they've kind of strayed off of the path of what their mission, what they should be, is to educate people. And so many universities now are so caught up in political correctness, DEI, et cetera, that they've kind of lost their way. And so they're doing a lot of things that really aren't helping the students in the long run to be a productive citizen. In many cases, actually teaching things that are subversive to a good, what I say, citizenship in the United States.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me that universities have an obligation, especially if they're publicly funded, and almost all are to some extent. They have an obligation and a mission. They should have a mission to, number one, teach the subject matters right at hand, chemistry, English, whatever it is, to engage in real rigorous scholarship, but to also promote the betterment of our society and a patriotism that loves America.
Right.
And in fact, we often see the opposite now at too many of these schools.
Right. And so I can say a hearty amen to that. Yeah. So I kind of keep my pulse, my finger on the pulse of things. And so that's kind of a good citizen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of what I mean is that we need to be a patriotic nation. I mean, I'm American. I love the fact that I'm American. I'm blessed that I'm American. On the one hand, I'm proud to be an American, but on the other hand, I am blessed to be an American.
Yeah.
And it really hurts my heart when I see teaching institutions or any institution that is denigrating the American or our Western culture and Western views.
Yeah.
And I think that our Western civilization has been a blessing to the entire world.
Sure.
Right, and it has nothing to me. It has nothing to do with color. It's just like what Dr. Martin Luther King, where he said, "Not the color of your skin, but the content of your character." And what I think is that I think that Western civilization has brought much to the table as far as content of character, as far as the ideals. And obviously there are people in America. In America, there are people who don't reach those ideals, right? But that doesn't mean America. That doesn't mean America is.
We don't dismiss the ideals,
exactly,
the aspiration.
Exactly, yeah. And there are not that many countries that have the ideals that America has as their foundation and their underpinning. Right. So those ideals, they need to be sought after. They need to be, we need to pursue them instead of denigrate them.
These schools welcome masses of foreigners, in part for financial reasons, but also because so many of these administrators and professors genuinely detest the idea of American sovereignty and won't object to the clear dangers posed by the Chinese communists, for example. So, the rest of us are left with a culture overwhelmed. Permanent societal change that none of us ever voted for. And competition in the labor market at a time when the entry-level employment prospects for new graduates are simply brutal. And that's putting it mildly. We can do better. We must do better. We can resurrect American higher education. We can make it truly American again. The total number of foreign students must be capped. 1 or 2% of total enrollment seems perfectly sensible. The total number of Chinese nationals should be 0. Bagel. None. Not welcome here. United States schools for United States citizens. It may sound simplistic, but the most powerful ideas are. We must prioritize our own children, build up the next generation of patriots, and protect our national security.